Good afternoon. Please make sure that you're on Lesson 2, Page 2, and today we're going to be constructing a box and whisker plot. So let's look over the points that are very important that we're going to be working on. And each one of them happens to have a name. So the very first point that we're going to look at is point located right here. So would you please put a point? And this is called the lower extreme. It is the lowest data item after we put the data in order. So it's the lowest number. Our next point is called the upper extreme. And it is the point at the end of what we're going to refer to as a whisker. As you may have guessed, that is the highest number of our data. So please copy these points down in your notes. The median is right in the middle of what we're going to refer to as the box, of this box and whisker plot. It is the median of all the data. Next, we find the first quartile. And if you notice the word quartile kind of looks like quarters, that's exactly what it's referring to. The first quarter, the first 1/4 of this graph, ends right here. It also is the end of the first whisker and the beginning of the box. And it is the median of the first half of the data. So median of the first half of the data. The next point is called the third quartile. So if we look at this, this is the first quarter, the second quarter, and the third quarter of the data. We're going to put a point right here at the end of the box. And then the third quartile is the median of the second half of the data. Finally, the last vocabulary term we're going to talk about refers to the interquartile range. So if we look at this, it's referring to this area of the graph. And each one of these sections divides our data into 4 quarters, or 1/4 of the data is represented in each part of this. So the interquartile data is located here, and the range would be from this point to this point, our first quartile point to our third quartile point. And if you look at this, this represents 50% of the data. So when we turn to the next page now, we're going to make a box and whisker plot. So please go on to page 3. So we have to find the 5 key points that we just discussed that are needed to create a box and whisker plot from this particular set of data. And as you can see in bold, we have to put the data in order first. This is extremely important. So we're going to start with the lowest number, which is 10. Followed by 15. And then 17, 19, and 20, 21, 23, 24, 25, 27, 30, and then another 30. So if we count, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 data items. So let's make sure we represented all 12. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So we're going to start now with the lower extreme. And the lower extreme is the lowest number. So the lowest extreme will be 10, and when we make the plot, that will be our beginning point. The next point is the upper extreme, which is the highest number. So we can see that that's 30. The median of the data, now we're going to have to do a little bit of work, so I'm going to check it off at the bottom so we can see it. We're going to start checking off points and trying to work towards the center. So 1 here, 1 here. You may have seen him do this in the video, and instead of crossing off the numbers, because we still need to see them, we're just going to put a check mark underneath. So when we get here, we can see we have 2 numbers in the middle, which means that the median is actually in between both of those numbers. So we would add those 2 values together, and we're going to get 44, and then we're going to divide that by 2. So the median number would be 22. And if you think about that, that makes sense. 22 is right in between 21 and 23. And so now I'd like you to draw that line, and that splits our data now in half. So now we're going to go on and try to find the first quartile number. And remember, that's the median of the first half of the data. And so we have now the first half of the data. So we're going to now, once again, try to find the median of this half of the data. So we're going to start here, and we're going to check off here. And again, we find ourselves in a situation that we have 2 numbers that are in the center of that half of the data. So if I take 17 and I add it to 19, I'm going to get 36. And we're going to take 36 and divide it by 2, and that's going to give us 18. So our median of this half of the data is 18. So it's right in the middle, and again, that makes logical sense. That would be the number in the middle between 17 and 19. So we're going to move forward now, and we're going to go to the second quartile number, which is a median of the second half of the data. So here's the second half of the data. So we're going to start by crossing off first number. Some teachers have referred to it as closing the curtain. So we've crossed off one at each end, and we move towards the middle. Again, there are 2 numbers in the middle of the second half of the data. So we're trying to find the middle between 25 and 27. If we add those numbers, we get 52, and we're going to divide that by 2, and we're going to get 26. And again, that makes sense because 26 should be in the middle number between 25 and 27. So now we have all of the points we need to create our graph. So this number line has been created, and we can see our lowest number is 10. So the graph started at 8, and it is increased by 2 each time. So it would be 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20, etc. And our highest data item is 30, so this graph goes up to 32. So we're going to start with our lower extreme. Okay, that's this number. And we're going to place a point above 10. So on this graph, we usually place it above, not on the number line, but above the number line. Our next point is our upper extreme. So that is this number. So I'm going to go to 30. I see 32, so I'm going to graph this one as 30. And we're going to put that point. Those are our two extremes, and those will be our whiskers, so to speak. Next, we're going to graph our median quartile number, which is 22. So I'm going to find 20. And since the graph goes up by 2, this next number would be, our next hash mark would be 22. And that's the exact median of our data. And then our next number is the first quartile number. That will start the box and complete the whisker. So we're looking at 18. So we're at 20 here. If we go down by 2, this would be 18. So right above that, we're going to put a point. And then finally, our last data point that we're going to graph would be 26. And by the way, you could do these points in order that they you can do them in numerical order if it makes it easier on you. So we're going to go to 26. So if I have 20 here, this is 22, 24, 26. So we want to put a point right above there. So now to complete our graph, if you recall from the very first video, he mentioned that we put vertical lines to create the box. So on this, our first quartile number, and on this, our second quartile number, and that actually should be the third quartile number. So this, I just realized, should be third quartile number. We're going to put this box. And then we need another vertical line right there to complete the box. This is our true median of the whole data. And then we attach it with a line that we refer to as a whisker from the lower extreme to the first quartile. And then we attach from the third quartile number to the upper extreme to make the other whisker. So we've now completed a box and whisker plot. And I'm going to ask you to go back and please correct the error that I just caught. It is a typo. The second quartile should be listed as the third quartile. So would you correct that, please? Thank you for listening, and have a great afternoon.